All right. It's I don't know, 6:18. It's Tuesday. We're gonna prep some Dungeons and Dragons. We're not actually gonna prep any of our ongoing games. On the Patreon, I asked what video I should make next or work on next, and with not many votes, but the most votes, was how to convert an adventure. And I mean, I've converted everything from first edition adventures to let's see, first edition adventures. I've done Pathfinder adventures. I've converted Hero Quest, which is just a board game. I mean, I've converted a lot of things over to Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition. So 4th edition. 4th edition is definitely one of my favorite editions of Dungeons & Dragons. I know that's that used to be a controversial take. Now it's like a hipster take. At the end of the day, it was good. It was a good game. That's all I have to say. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. I had fun, and me and my friends had fun playing it. So there you go. As we move into 5.5 D&D, you're going to see more and more and more of 4th edition making its way back into the game's design now that stigma is kind of worn off from it. So pay attention to what you see in this adventure, and you're going to see a lot of great things. There's going to be a lot of cool things. So this adventure is from Online Dungeon Magazine, issue 182. This is when Dungeon Magazine stopped being printed and it was just available online. I can't remember if it was free or if you had to have like the basically whatever D&D Beyond is nowadays. They kind of had something like that back in the day for 4th edition. It gave you access to like character builders and monster builders and all sorts of cool stuff. There was an ongoing series of adventures that was much better than Skills of War. And it was published in Dungeon Magazine and I think a little bit of support in Dragon Magazine, called The Chaos Scar. And I believe the general premise was a great old one crash lands on Fantasy World, and they're inside a meteor. It's very like Lavos from Chrono Trigger situation. And the shards of their meteorite scatter all over this valley and start having corrupting influences on people and creatures and stuff. And then the heroes are in this valley, and they are trying to figure out what the fuck's happening here. And at the heart of all of it, of course, is this fallen meteorite, and like bad stuff's happening. So anyways, this is one of the earlier... I guess it was kind of designed to be a bit of a West Marches game, because there was just a lot of different unconnected things for you to do that were all influenced by this meteorite crashing or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's what it was about. So anyways, Wayward Wyrmling is a 3rd level adventure. Now, keep in mind that in 4th edition, you could go all the way from level 1 to level 30, and there were 3 tiers of play. There was Heroic, there was Paragon, and there was Epic. I want to say those are the 3 tiers. It's been a long time. I mean, this adventure came out in 2010, people. It's like 12 years ago. So it was written by Aaron Blackadurge Rudell and illustrated by Wayne England, with cartography by Jason A. Engel. And everything about this adventure is just really, really fun and really cool, and I like it. It is a great one-shot adventure. It's a great introductory adventure. So you're trying to get people to play Dungeons & Dragons with you. This is like the free drugs you give out. You're like, yeah, I mean, if you're curious, I could run you through a game. So then they play Wayward Wyrmling, and then at the end of the adventure, they have like a baby dragon. And like, who wants to stop playing D&D once you got a baby dragon? You don't want to stop playing D&D. So then you start an actual campaign using the characters from this and their pet dragon, and you got a nice DM NPC, and everything's just so great. So we're going to read through it, and we're going to take notes as we go. This is going to be a multi-part series. And we're going to do everything we can to convert it, not just to 5th edition, but also to Foundry VTT, so that it's a fully playable VTT adventure. I don't know how to export worlds, so I'll build it in Foundry, and then we could figure out how to bundle it up, I guess, and then I'll just give a copy to all the patrons or whatever, so that they could play it. So here we go. The Wayward Wyrmling is a short adventure for 5 third-level characters that takes place in the lair of an adamantine dragon in the Chaos Scar. The adamantine dragon, we're going to have to change the name, Karen Zaxxas. Karen Zaxxas. Jesus Christ, guys. I guess in 2010, Karen didn't have the same meaning that it does in 2022. Karen Zaxxas was recently slain by a powerful group of adventurers. Ah, well, she's dead. I guess that's fine. But she left behind a single wyrmling. Fireclaw kobolds, led by an ambitious worm priest, have moved into the abandoned lair and adopted the orphan dragonling. I felt like that last night, Dom. It told me that I had been subscribed to Red for 21 months. 21 months of Red Kobold gaming. That's a lot of Red Kobold gaming. Anyways, the kobolds have been training the wyrmling to be a vicious killer. This is back when kobolds were all evil, okay? I want everybody to calm down. This is bad. This is the 4th age of magic, and kobolds are still very evil, okay? So don't worry. We'll iron this shit out. We're going to iron this shit out. Please don't panic. The kobolds have been training the wyrmling to be a vicious killer, providing it with humanoid training partners kidnapped from beyond the king's wall. The characters have the opportunity to explore the dragon's lair, end the kobold menace, and perhaps rescue the adamantine wyrmling from the evil influence of the kobold worm priest. That all sounds pretty dope. Alright. So, background. The adamantine dragon Karen Zaxxas was... Jesus Christ, that name's going to kill me every time. The adamantine dragon Karen Zaxxas was recently slain by a group of adventurers near the Chaos Scar. The tales of the mighty deed echo through the land. However, unbeknownst to the victorious adventurers, Karen Zaxxas was female. What? A dragon named Karen was female? Didn't see that fucking coming. And had recently become the proud mother of a single male adamantine wyrmling, who she named Walter. No, I'm just kidding. His name is Taloclaxis. But Walter sounds way cooler. After the death of Karen Zaxxas, her killers looted her lair, but did not discover the wyrmling, who was small enough to hide and avoid detection. With no choice but to fend for himself, Walter left his mother's lair in the Chaos Scar and ventured out into the world. He would certainly have been killed and eaten by a more powerful monster. I've seen his stat block. That's debatable. Hold on. He certainly would have been killed and eaten by a more powerful monster, but instead, the first creatures he encountered were a warband of kobolds from the Fireclaw tribe. The worm priest leading the group, Varza, an ambitious and progressive kobold. So, what does a 2010 progressive kobold do? Saw the wyrmling as a sign from Tiamat, a sign that it was time to leave her tribe and strike out on her own. Varza persuaded her warband to join her by promising that the adamantine wyrmling was the key to future power and influence in the Chaos Scar. Needing a base of operation, Varza followed Walter's tracks back to his mother's lair, and there began instructing the wyrmling in the finer points of dragonhood. This is honestly like the plot line of one of the Wildermyth campaigns. What the fuck? I didn't even realize that. Anyways, of course Varza wished to turn her wyrmling into a rampaging monster, not unlike the chromatic dragons her kind so often serve. In order to do so, however, she needed to expunge the more peaceable inclinations common to metallic dragons from Walter's psyche. Preferring a hands-on approach, Varza and her kobolds began raiding local tribes of goblins, and even rival kobold clans for suitable teaching aids for Walter. Those taken by kobolds were disarmed and forced to battle the adamantine wyrmling to the death. Walter is not an evil creature, but it now has a child's loyalty to Varza and follows the worm priest's commands. Walter believes that he must slay the helpless creatures Varza forces him to battle in order to sharpen the fighting skills he needs to defend Varza and the kobolds loyal to her. In the past few weeks, Walter's natural instincts have become more prominent, and he has begun to question Varza's commands. This has not slowed Varza's ambition, however, and she has begun to venture beyond the King's Wall to collect training partners for her pet wyrmling. How to get the characters involved. Tell them it's a one-shot, and if they don't do this adventure, you will have to play Smash Brothers instead, or some other game, because this is the game you're going to run. But I guess if we want to have a real hook, the Wayward Wyrmling takes place in the Chaos Scar. You can use one of the hooks below to get the characters into the former layer of Karen's Axis. Exactly. You're already here. You want to play D&D. I don't need to give you a fucking hook. Get out there. Hook number 1, scaling rewards. The characters are approached by a dwarven smith named Ecos Ironbelly, who tells them he was recently hired by a group of adventurers responsible for slaying the great adamantine dragon, Karen. The adventurers hire Ecos to craft armor from the dragon's scales, which he did. He is convinced that there are more scales to be found in Karen's lair, and he offers to pay the characters 200 GP if they can collect enough dragon scales to fashion a shield or suit of armor. Ecos knows the location of the dragon's lair within the Chaos Scar, and gives the characters a rough map if they agree to his terms. He will also give them experience points, which is a thing that they used to use a long time ago. I feel like most people would just be like, cool, we're going to keep the skills for ourselves. Tell me about the crafting system, Dungeon Master. Did you know I rolled a craftsman? I'm just going to make the armor myself. Is that okay? Whatever gets you in the dungeon, baby. I don't fucking care. Hook number 2. Woeful Woodwives. It is a fairly common knowledge that local woodcutters are crossing into Chaos Scar to harvest the bountiful forest beyond the King's Wall. The boldest of these woodcutters, Aram Haverland, and his 2 grown sons disappeared over 2 weeks ago, and their wives fear the worst. The wives approach the characters and ask them to enter the Chaos Scar and search the small forest near the King's Wall for their husbands. Because back in the day, only guys could cut down trees. That's just how it was. The woodcutters' wives are poor working folk, but they have managed to scrape together 50 gold pieces to pay the characters if they can locate their husbands, dead or alive. The woodcutters' wives can provide detailed descriptions of the 3 missing woodcutters if the characters agree to search for them. Alternatively, the characters could be approached by the priestess Shendera, the bailiff Kendon Longstrider, or another key NPC from Restwell Keep on behalf of the wives and families of the missing woodcutters. They'll also give you some experience points, and more if you aren't assholes about it and you do it for free. I never understood that. How am I going to balance my game if I'm giving out more XP for them being good guys? That's why we invented DM Inspiration, to reward the kind of behavior we want to see instead of experience points. Treasure preparation. So back in 4th edition, magic items were bountiful. Like, I'm talking like Diablo, Borderlands style. There was so many fucking magical items. It was crazy. And they were important to your build. You actually needed to have a full kit of like magical gear by level 5, or you were not going to survive some of the fights. So the treasure system in 4th edition was very, very like liberal with the treasure. And there was a whole thing in the Dungeons Master's Guide about how to work with your players, find out what items they needed for their build, and then find opportunities to seed those items into the world alongside randomly generated treasure. It was very video gamey. It was very video gamey. So every 4th edition adventure always has a section that tells you about treasure and where you're going to stuff that treasure and how much treasure you're going to stuff this adventure with. So, also, Uzuri, I usually ask my characters why they are there, the reverse GM plot hook, as I learned in boxing. That's a brilliant idea. Very good, very good. Alright, so characters can find 3 caches of treasure in the course of the Wayward Wyrmling. These account for treasure parcels 3, 5, and 9 from your 4th edition Dungeons Master's Guide. In the Kobold Clearing, there will be 80 gold pieces. In the Roaring Cavern, there will be 2 potions of healing, and in the Lair of Karen, there will be a level 5 magic item, and 2 100 gold piece gems, and 110 gold pieces. Pretty fucking cut and dry. Pretty straightforward. That's the treasure. Alright. Wrapping it up, our very own dragon. After the characters defeat Varza, and assuming they succeed at assuming they succeed at the turning Taloclaxis, aka Walter, skill challenge, they will have the opportunity to gain Walter as a companion character. At that point, although Walter no longer considers the characters enemies, he doesn't yet recognize them as possible allies or friends either. In fact, the poor Wyrmling is in a profound state of emotional turmoil. The recent death of his mother, and now the death of the only other creature that has ever been kind to him. Also worth mentioning, it was assumed back in the day that you just fucking murdered everybody. There's no like, oh, Varza, why are you doing this? You don't have to do this, baby. We're gonna take this dragon. We're keep teaching him to be better, and you could be better too. It's just no, we fucking murder her. Maybe we'll murder the baby dragon too. What kind of gear can we make out of the dragon? That was kind of the mindset back in the day for Dungeons and Dragons. So the narrator here is assuming right away that all of the kobolds have been murdered. Like every single kobold's been murdered. Anyway, let's see. In fact, the poor Wyrmling is in a profound state, blah, blah, blah. Even if it was self-serving, has left him confused, depressed, and unsure what to do next. The characters can reassure Taloclaxis and persuade him to join them with a simple Complexity 1 skill challenge. 4th edition. This is a diplomacy challenge, DC 10, 4 successes before 3 failures. So skill challenges have evolved quite a bit, at least for my games. But here you get a glimpse of the early skill challenge that was in 4th edition. Most people hated this shit, because if you ran it as is, it was super video gamey. You were literally just rolling some dice and hoping for the best. There was like no role playing. There was no innovation. There was no being clever. Fortunately, there were a lot of good DMs. Sly Flourish, who still writes profusely for Dungeons & Dragons, was one of the best homebrew creators for 4th edition, and he kind of lifted skill challenges up out of darkness and into the light. Giphy has, of course, kind of taken skill challenges to a whole nother level. So we could do any of those things, or just kind of make up our own for this adventure. Normally, an adamantine Wyrmling would be outside the scope of allowable companion characters, but Taloclaxis is a unique case. Bereft of the parental training he would normally receive from his mother, and unwilling to fall back on the brutal techniques taught to him by Varza, the Wyrmling is a bit of a blank slate. The companion character stat block presented here is modified to reflect this fact. It illustrates how Taloclaxis' abilities are now stunted because of developmental and emotional trauma. AKA, when he was a boss monster, he was a badass, but now that he's your ally, he's kind of a wimp. That's a pretty classic video game trope too. Anyways, in any event, it is unlikely that Taloclaxis will remain with the characters as a companion for more than a level or 2. He is a dragon after all, and will recognize soon enough that his destiny lies elsewhere. Alright. Pretty cool so far. Yes, the Frost Frailty build. I believe like Ranger was the best Frost user in 4E, to the point that all future Rangers have been nerfed ever since. All right. Location 1, the Kobold Clearing. Well, we're definitely going to be remaking this in Incarnate for sure. Wow. I understand that they were trying to push product back then. I own these tiles. Where are these tiles? They're on my shelf right behind me. But if we're doing it for... Actually, on the digital copies of these tiles too. But we have Incarnate, so we might as well make a better looking map than this. All right. Kobold Clearing. This is a 2nd level encounter. Oh, thank you. This is a 2nd level encounter. 4 Kobold Tunnelers, 4 Kobold Quick Blades, and 2 Man-Trap Patches. So this is one of the great things about 4th edition encounter building, is they would have, like, shit on the map, like, that you could interact with and that you could do stuff with, and it would just tell you about it. You wouldn't have to, like, make it up. Like, it would just say, hey, listen, on this map, here's some dope shit you can do. And I kind of like that. I like really appreciated that that was a thing. I'm very lazy in my encounter building nowadays, and I never bother to put this stuff in. I just sort of rely on the consequences and boons and succeed at a cost table to add spice to the encounters. But in 4th edition, every encounter it has spice baked in. It has spice baked in. All right. Fearing reprisal from the rest of the Fireclaw tribe, Varza has instructed her kobolds to be vigilant for intruders and has ensured the entrance to the lair is well guarded. The kobolds improve their defenses by felling 2 large trees, which serve as barricades and a convenient place from which to snipe at enemies. In addition, the devious humanoids have hidden a number of man traps beneath the forest litter in the clearing. These spiked mechanical jaws can close with bone-snapping force, holding a victim in place until he or she can pry the jaws open again. All right, we're going to pause right there. This was really cool. This is a really cool idea, but now our characters have giant man traps that they will probably want to use to murder kobolds and maybe even the dragon, and that is very fun. But we may just want to make these like covered pit traps. You know what I'm saying? Covered pit trap kind of does the same thing as a fucking huge bear trap. And it kind of makes a little bit more sense. I don't know where these kobolds are buying these giant bear traps from. It's a little weird. Yeah, anyways. The kobolds are not expecting trouble, but Varza has commanded that they be vigilant. There are currently 8 kobolds. And these aren't no fucking 5th edition baby kobolds. This is 4th edition kobolds. This is the real deal. This is the real shit right here. These kobolds are not expecting trouble, but Varza has commanded they be vigilant. There are currently 8 kobolds hunkered down behind 2 fallen trees in the clearing, watching for any signs of intruders. The kobolds are taking pains to stay out of sight and have a passive stealth of 18. See how it just tells me? It just tells me, yo, this is the encounter, and this is exactly how you could run this fucking encounter. Imagine, just stop for a moment. Just stop for a moment. Imagine if a 5th edition adventure was this clearly written. Could you imagine a 5th edition adventure this clearly written? Just saying. I'm just saying. Alright, anyways, should the characters attempt to sneak into the clearing, they must succeed on a DC 12 stealth check to beat the kobold's passive perception. If the kobolds fail to spot the hiding if the characters fail to spot the hiding kobolds, the heroes are surprised. And then, here's some flavor text based on what they do. Choose your own adventure style. So read or paraphrase the following. Notice how it even tells you to fucking paraphrase so that you don't feel like you have to read it even if it's not right. A narrow, winding path ends in a small forest clearing. The area is quite bare, containing little more than a pair of fallen trees, a shallow pool, and a small hillock at the southern end of the clearing. A cavern yawns open at the base of the hillock, and you can faintly hear sounds of rushing water from the darkness within. Alright, that sounds pretty cool. When the kobolds attack, shadowy figures move behind the 2 fallen trees in the clearing, and the air is suddenly filled with a hail of javelins. You are under attack. Alright, so let's see. The kobolds attack almost immediately. They won't give the characters more than a few seconds to scan the clearing before initiative is rolled. Too short a time for any active perception checks. Literally just says right there, too short a time for active perception checks. After that, characters must devote actions to making perception checks, aka the search action. And kobolds intend to keep them too busy for that. The kobolds remain behind fallen trees for as long as possible, peppering the characters with javelins until they run out or until the characters have closed in to melee with them. Once kobolds are in melee, they use their mobility to gain advantageous positions, to threaten ranged attackers, to keep away from the most dangerous opponents, and to draw characters into the traps, if they haven't been detected already. Note that each man trap patch actually consists of 4 independently trapped. Okay, so they're just regular bear traps. Okay, that's a little more reasonable. When only 4 kobolds remain, a single kobold tunneler tries to break away from combat. Unless the characters can prevent it, the kobold runs into the cavern and warns its friends in Area 2. It is literally telling you everything you need to do. It tells you exactly how to run the encounter. But there's more. Features of the area. Daylight. All right, so that means that even though these kobolds are going to have surprise, and even though these kobolds are going to have pack tactics, they are going to be at disadvantage. So they're going to need pack tactics to make normal attacks. This is actually a really good idea because this is a level 3 adventure. So we don't want these very strong kobolds to be attacking with advantage the whole time. Having them fight the kobolds during the day out in a clearing with the sun out is going to be good because it's going to remove the chance, or at least reduce the chances that they're just going to get fucking crit and killed. So it's a very smart design. Fallen trees. Squares covered by the fallen trees. Oh my god, it's actually telling me what the fucking stuff on the map does? Fallen trees. Squares covered by the fallen trees are difficult terrain, as shown. The fallen trees provide superior cover. What kind of cover do they provide? Superior cover. There you go. That's like a +5 to AC or some shit. So it's 3/4 covers in 5th edition terms. And it only provides that to small creatures. And then it provides partial cover to medium creatures. And then it talks about this little pool here. The pool is 2 feet deep and is difficult terrain. There you go. Yeah. I think they just gave up giving passive DCs because in 5e, a party of level 3 adventurers could be wildly over or under that range. Oh, yeah, for sure. But the problem with 5e, well, the problem with all the games, but especially with 5e, is 5e, you can build like so many different ways for your party, for your character. I mean, you could have a level 3 character that's got a passive perception of 20 something. So, yeah. All right, let's check out the stat blocks here. We've got some kobold tunnelers. The fact that they're tunnelers makes me think that we could probably get away with some pit traps instead of some man traps or whatever. Let's see. They are skirmishers and they are minions. So they only have 1 hit point and a missed attack never damages them. So if we wanted to, we could run them as minions. But if we also wanted to, we could just give them like 5 hit points or something. So there's pretty much a good chance that they're going to die to any attack, but there's a chance that if they take like a little bit of damage, they might be able to keep going. Either way, right? Whatever makes sense for you. They are very fast. And then we go here. You got an AC of 15, Fortitude of 12, Reflex of 14, and a Will of 12. What does all this shit mean in 5th edition terms? So back in 4th edition, you had 4 types of armor class. You had your actual armor class. You had your Fortitude, which was your Strength and Constitution armor class. You had your Reflex, which was your Intelligence and Dexterity armor class. And then you had your Will, which was your Wisdom and your Charisma armor class. There were no saving throws. Everything, every spell, every ability was an attack, and it targeted 1 or more of the 4 defenses. And everything in the whole world had 4 defenses. So when you're looking to convert a 4th edition monster over to 5th edition, when you're trying to figure out what to do about their saving throws, Fortitude is Strength and Constitution, Reflex is Intelligence and Dexterity, and Will is Wisdom and Charisma. All right, speed of 6. They didn't use feet back in 4th edition. They used grid spaces because everything was grid. They didn't want you to play the game without miniatures. They didn't want you to play the game. They really didn't want you to play Theater of the Mind. They really didn't. They really wanted you to play tactical grid-based combat. My friends and I would call it Final Fantasy Tactics RPG because it was Dungeons and Dragons, but it was very focused on tactical grid-based combat. So when you're converting a 4th edition monster over, speed of 6 would be speed of 30 feet. All right, then we go down to these things. They got standard actions, they got minor actions, and then they have triggered actions. So let's break all that shit down. All right, a standard action is, in 5th edition terms, an action. So it says here, they got this javelin they could do, and they throw javelins. That's pretty cool. And they could stab you with the javelin, and if the javelin hits, it always does 4 damage. Minions in 4th edition always did set damage. They never rolled for damage. What's a very popular thing in 5th edition is static damage, especially when you play IRL. And you have a bunch of people that are really bad at calculating their damage, and you want to speed things up. The DM in an IRL game is often encouraged when you're looking at tips for speeding up your D&D game IRL. The DMs are often encouraged to use the static damage listings for monsters so that they have less dice rolling they have to do on their end. Now that we all have VTT spoiling us rotten with all its convenience features, we've kind of moved away from static, but this is kind of where static damage first came from. Anyways, you can see that this is a +6 attack, and it is against armor class. It makes sense because it's a weapon. Weapon's going to attack armor class. You can also throw the javelin 3 times per encounter. So using our brains, if you can always stab with 1 javelin, and you could throw 3 javelins, how many javelins does Timmy the Kobold have? The correct answer, he has 4 javelins. He has 4 javelins. He throws 3 of the javelins. He keeps the 4th one to stab with. There you go. We just converted javelins over. So a minor action. A minor action in 5th edition is a bonus action. So kobolds as a species in 4th edition had an ability called Shifty. Shifty allowed them to move 1 space, so 5 feet, without provoking an opportunity attack. What we would do now is we would just say that they can disengage as a bonus action. That would just be the best way to do that. Just say they could disengage. Now, back in the day, that 5 feet of movement in 4th edition could make a big difference. So we could say that the kobold disengages and moves 5 feet, and that could be their bonus action to kind of reflect that they still have that just a little extra movement when they need it the most. Then we've got triggered actions. A triggered action is a reaction. So that's what, you're seeing right now. You are seeing the dinosaur bones of all the things you love about 5th edition right now in this stream. So a triggered action is a reaction. And it even tells you what the fucking trigger is. A close or area attack hits or misses the kobold. The effect is immediate interrupt. The kobold rolls a saving throw. If it succeeds, it shifts 3 squares. So what does this mean? The kobold rolls a saving throw. So back in the day, if you had to roll a saving throw in 4th edition, you didn't roll a saving throw like you do in 5th edition. You literally rolled a d20, and if you got a 10 or higher, you passed the saving throw. What does that sound like? What is that? That sounds like a death saving throw. That's right. So they're basically saying that the kobold has a 45 or a 55% chance of shifting 3 squares, which is cool. The problem is this narrow escape. The problem with this is they are minions. So if they are hit, I mean, they're just going to die. So it's more likely that if the attack misses the kobold, then they get to shift 3 squares. All right, let's see. Next up is their actual skills. So it just tells you straight up, these are the skills that they are trained in, and these are the abilities or the modifiers they have. Thievery. Thievery represented, I believe, picking locks, disarming traps, and picking pockets, I want to say. In 4th edition, it has been a really long time. So, yeah, they're basically saying these kobolds are very sneaky. Then they give you the physical stats of the kobolds, and then, stuff. Now, I said that they have 4 javelins. They're saying they only have 3 javelins here. If they never run out of javelins, though, they'd obviously have like a 4th javelin that they hold on to. So I'm going to say that I'm right and this stat block is wrong. All right, so we're going to go faster through the next ones because we've kind of broken that one down pretty well. So now we've got the Kobold Quickblades. So these are level 1 skirmishers, so they're not minions. They have 29 fucking hit points. Imagine sending a kobold with 29 hit points against your party. That's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. And they give you a bloodied value, so you don't have to do math. So you know that half of 29 is 14. And then that gives you their defenses. And then these guys have a short sword. What's cool about the short sword is they don't just stab you with a short sword. It's not just stabbing you with a short sword. This attack deals 2 extra damage, get ready for this shit, per square the kobold has shifted since the start of its turn. And shifting is when you move without provoking opportunity attacks. So that's a cool idea and a cool ability. It's not very intuitive to the way we think about things in 5th edition. So we'll have to be a little bit more clever with this. But I like it. I like it. So they have a move action. Move actions were a thing that instead of taking a normal move, you would take a move action. So your move action would be moving your normal speed of 6 or whatever the move action told you. So some people would have a teleport move action. In the case of the kobolds, instead of moving 6 feet, they would move 3 feet, but they wouldn't provoke any opportunity attacks. So on and so forth. Now, obviously, this is a grid-based tactical game, so the DM always has these kobolds just rolling around in circles around your character, trying to get all 3 of the spaces of movement that they need to stab you for an extra +6 damage. It was silly, but it was also kind of exciting because you were trying to pin down these kobolds so that they wouldn't be able to get that +6 damage on you. It was a whole thing. And then they have a bonus action of Shifty. These guys are also athletic, stealthy, and thieves. And then these are the equipment that they have with them. Now, they are lacking, you will notice, they are lacking in ranged attacks. They have no slings or anything else like that. These guys are designed to run up and start melee with the characters, while these guys spend at least 3 rounds hiding and throwing spears at the characters. All right. So then we've got minion traps. Minion traps, that's right. In 4th edition, traps were monsters, and they had their own stat blocks, and they even gave experience points when you defeated them. So a trap stat block is broken down as description, what kind of thing it is. This is a minion trap, so it's a really shitty trap. But it's hard to see. DC 21 perception to see this thing. They have 26 hit points, and they have armor class. They obviously don't have a will save because they don't have a brain. That is reflected in the immunities to all of these things. Back in the day, necrotic magic only hurt living creatures, so it wouldn't hurt objects like it does nowadays. Poison wouldn't hurt it. Psychic wouldn't hurt it. You can't force move it. Can't have any conditions on it. Doesn't have any ongoing damage. I feel like the ongoing damage clause is wrong because if you like splashed acid on like a metal trap, it would, burn every round. But I kind of get the gist of what they're saying here. This is a triggered action, so it has a reaction. If a creature enters its square, it immediately attacks their reflex saving throw. What does that sound like? Attacking a reflex save? Attacking a reflex... I guess it's a reflex save. That means they make a dexterity saving throw. So you step on the trap, you make a dexterity saving throw. If you don't, you take 1d6 plus 3 damage, and you are immobilized. And it says save ends. So that's a lingering thing. So until they make the save, they are still stuck. How that would translate to 5th edition is they would... it would say you are immobilized, and then it would say... escape DC, or you are grappled. Sorry, it would say you were grappled. You are grappled, and then the escape DC. It would list the escape DC. In this case, the escape DC would be a 14, right? Because it's a +4. We assume there's a 10 +4, so that puts it at that. If we want to be a little bit gentler, we could start at 8 and add 2, so the dexterity save would actually be a 12. I think a lot of people, when they do conversions, they start at 8 as the base number, which is kind of how you calculate the DC of character spellcasting abilities and stuff like that. And that can generally work pretty good for 4th edition. If you're running a tougher game, or you have a succeed at a cost system or something like that, I always push my DCs to be a little bit higher to kind of encourage more use of succeed at a cost, to encourage more exciting stuff to happen and more resource use. But if you're doing it just to be normal, you'd go with 8. And if you have succeed at a cost, I'd say use 10. All right. Countermeasures. It gives you some ideas on how to deal with the trap. You can use a thievery skill to disarm it. And if you succeed, a single trap square no longer functions. Now, obviously, big brain thinking, you're like, cool, I have a bear trap now. And you pick up that bear trap and you take it with you. Which is kind of cool. They sell hunting traps. Player characters can buy hunting traps in the fucking store. So, you know, we're going to do one tiger pit that doesn't have a tiger in it. And we will do one patch of bear traps, I think, is how we'll adapt it. That way the tunnelers have something to tunnel. But then we still have the cool man traps from before. And avoid. An athletics check, just jump over them. Once you know they're there, just jump over the spaces. It's literally reminding you, oh yeah, people can jump. How frequently do we as 5th edition players forget that our characters can jump? We can jump over things. We could jump over small enemies. We could jump over pits. We could jump over difficult terrain. Are you surrounded? Is your monster surrounded by spiky terrain or spiked growth? Just fucking jump. Jump over that shit. Don't run through it. Don't cheese grate yourself. Yeah. Exactly. Monks jumping, barbarians jumping. There's reasons, like you take certain feats, because if you're playing a game that's low magic, especially. Oh man. Yes. Like I never get over the fact that people just think in one dimension. They just think on a flat plane. All right, let's go to encounter number 2, the Roaring Cavern. So we have the Roaring Cavern. This is encounter number 2. It is a level 3 encounter, and this means it's going to be a pretty tough fight. It's going to be a pretty tough fight. It's going to have four Kobold Dragon Shields. It's going to have 3 Kobold Slingers, and it's going to have a single Kobold Tunneler. All right, the setup here. This small cavern is bisected by a swiftly running stream that flows south into a shaft in the cavern floor, where it plunges 20 feet before crashing into an underground lake. The falling water makes a terrible noise, and the kobolds here are all but deaf. Oh, that's convenient. They're all but deaf to intruders. Because of the noise, all creatures in this area suffer a -5 penalty to perception checks. Huh, what does a -5 penalty sound like? Sounds like disadvantage to me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, conversation is possible only with adjacent creatures, and even then only by shouting. Look at how clearly it tells you it's loud. It doesn't just say it's loud in here. It doesn't say it's loud in here and you have disadvantage to your perception to hear things. It literally says this is how you talk to each other. It's that loud. It's that loud. Yeah. I miss this kind of stuff. If one of the kobold minions from Area 1 managed to warn the kobolds in this area, they are on alert and actively looking for intruders. In that event, the kobolds here do not suffer the -5 penalty to perception for the purpose of spotting the characters entering the cavern, and have their full passive perception score of 18. The kobolds still suffer the penalty for all other perception checks during the encounter. After the kobold minion from Area 1 warned the kobolds in this area, it intended to move on and warn Varza and the kobolds in Karen's lair. At the beginning of this encounter, however, the minion is still present here, behind the dragon shields at the southern end of the cavern. It leaves the map at its first opportunity, so characters with high initiative scores may have a chance to kill it with a ranged attack before it can escape to warn Varza in Area 3. Alright, so obviously this dude is only here if he survived the encounter outside. But, you know, they kind of work it in there. And they specifically tell you he's going to try to flee in the first round of combat. That's what he's going to do. And we put him right at the fucking exit. So if somebody doesn't win initiative and shoot this guy, he's going to go and warn the next encounter again about what's happening. All right. When the characters enter the cavern, read the following. A swift dark stream flows through the center of this lightless cavern. The water flows to the south before falling into a gaping pit in the floor and crashing down into unseen depths below. The rushing water fills the cavern with thunderous noise, leaving you all but deaf to the danger that may lurk in the darkness. And when the characters finally see the kobolds, you read, 6 kobolds stand on the eastern side. I don't know why they wouldn't see the kobolds right away. It's a very small map, but whatever. Anyways, 6 kobolds stand on the eastern side of the cavern, using the rushing stream as a natural barrier between you and them. They grip an assortment of melee and ranged weapons, and they look ready to use them. When combat begins... Alright, let's talk about this. So, they have every encounter that I ran into, that I played in 4th edition, it always had shit like this. They put all the bad guys on the other side of this river, right? And it's a swiftly moving river, and it's going to try and dump you into this pit. Sounds dope. But you'll notice that the river is only, or stream, whatever, is only 10 feet across. Everybody can jump 10 feet. You know what I'm saying? So it gives you this, like, exciting feeling, right, that you're jumping across like a dangerous thing to get to these bad guys and fight them. And the kobolds are smart. They have their 2 tanks right where you're going to jump across. So you're going to jump across, and now you're fighting the tanks, and their ranged dudes are going to be in the background. They're going to be attacking you while you're dealing with their tanks. And then they got 2 more tanks over here to make sure that you don't skip this encounter. They want to keep you on this map as much as possible. All right, let's talk about the tactics. When combat begins, the slingers open up on the heroes with special shot, aimed at obvious barbarians, fighters, and other melee types. The dragon shields stand their ground and wait for the characters to close for melee. In melee, the kobold dragon shields use dragon shield tactics to move into flanking positions. They won't shy away from trying to bull rush enemies into the stream, or the pit if any good opportunity arises. Their main tactic, however, is to defend their side of the stream in the hope that the intruders rush across it. The slingers avoid melee whenever possible, using shifty to keep away from close combat and their ranged attacks against enemies that seem reluctant to cross the stream. Alright, so it's pretty much exactly what I said was going to happen. Features of the area. It has darkness. This is good because the first set of kobolds was in bright light, so it's going to be like, you know, a disadvantage. These kobolds are not. They're going to be able to see fine. They're going to get those pack tactics kicking, all that good stuff. Now, this was not the intention when they made the adventure in 4th edition, because as you've seen from these stat blocks, they don't have something called pack tactics. They just have a lot of other cool abilities. So when we convert over, if we try to keep the flavor of bad guy kobolds having pack tactics, the encounters are sort of ramping themselves up. The first encounter, they have bright light sensitivity. The second encounter, they don't. These are like ideas that I'm already kicking around about how we're going to convert this into 5e. All right. Also, the ceiling here is 20 feet high. So if they did bring some flying player characters, they're still going to get shot a whole bunch. There is a pit. It is 10 feet wide. It is a vertical shaft hundreds of feet deep that connects to a subterranean river. However, it is filled almost entirely with water, so that the water line is only 20 feet below the cavern floor. A character falling into the pit takes 1d10 damage. The water in the pit is quite turbulent, so that it takes a DC 15 athletics check to tread water and stay afloat. Climbing out of the pit will take an additional d10 athletics check. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's another great thing about 4E is how there was a tool. I don't know if you remember. There was an online tool that you could take any monster in 4th edition and you could change what level it was, and it would automatically adjust all the math for it. Just like the Giphy Monster Maker. It was so cool. All right. Let's see. Rubble. Squares with rubble are difficult terrain. These rubble piles are large enough to offer cover for adjacent creatures of small size or smaller. Rushing stream. The stream is 3 feet deep and flowing swiftly. A character who makes an athletics check, DC 11 or DC 21 with a running start, can safely leap across it. Any character that enters the water suffers the following attack as an immediate reaction, aka a +3 versus reflex, so they have to make a DC, we'll say 11 dexterity saving throw. If they fail, they are knocked prone and they are force moved 3 squares, aka 15 feet, downstream towards the pit. A character that starts its turn in the stream is pushed 3 squares downstream before it can take any other action. Ooh. A prone character in the stream must make a DC 13 athletics or acrobatics check. A creature dragged into the pit by the current can make a saving throw as normal to avoid falling into the water below. All right, I like that quite a bit. That's pretty cool. So what's going on with a Kobold Dragon Shield? A Kobold Dragon Shield is a little bit slower than a regular Kobold, but much tougher. It's got 36 hit points. It's got an armor class of 18. It's crazy. Its speed is lower. Its initiative is lower. They also have little short swords, but their little short swords do not have a bonus for moving. Instead, they mark their enemies. So when a creature in 4th edition is marked, it has a -2 to any attack it makes against anyone that any attack it makes if that attack does not include the person that marked it. So we will have to come up with some kind of mechanic for what the Kobold Dragon Shield is doing in a 5th edition setting, because we don't really have anything for marking. I think like the Cavalier marks things, but it's not very good. We'll figure something out. They also have an encounter ability. So an encounter ability is a once per short rest. Whenever you see something that says encounter, that means once per short rest. So this encounter ability is a melee within 5 feet, but it doesn't attack armor class. It actually attacks reflex, which is kind of cool. Maybe there is a lizard folk dragon shield in 5th edition. I don't think it's called a dragon shield, but there is a lizard folk dragon shield, and it has the ability to take hits for adjacent allies. So that might be kind of cool. Oh, a marking action in the DMG? Oh shit. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Making, marking. All right, we'll just open the Dungeon Master's Guide, I guess. Sources, sourcebook, Dungeon Master's Guide. Let's see. Adventuring options, combat options. Initiative score. Side initiatives. Speed factors. Rolling initiative turns. Climbing onto bigger creatures. Look, there's actual rules for this, Dom. Can you believe it? There's actual rules for climbing on monsters. This is crazy. Let's see. Disarming Marking. All right. When a creature makes a melee attack, it can also mark its target. Until the end of the attacker's next turn, any opportunity attack it makes against the marked target has advantage. Oh, that's pretty cool. The opportunity attack doesn't expend the attacker's reaction, but the attacker can't make the attack. If anything, such as incapacitated condition or shock and grasp spell, prevents it from taking reactions. The attacker is limited to 1 opportunity attack per turn. Well, there you go. That works great. All right. So we will just copy paste that and then put it in there, and then we can even quote the Dungeon Master's Guide so that they know that, you know, we didn't just make all of our stuff up. Let's see. They also have something called Dirty Trick, or Dirty Tricks. Now, Dirty Tricks is pretty neat because it's not a real attack roll. If we were to convert this over to 5th edition, this would actually be a dexterity save ability. And it says here, it does damage and the target is immobilized until the end of the kobold's next turn. And if they miss, it's half damage and the target is slowed until the end of the kobold's next turn. That's pretty damn cool. Then there was something here called Shifty, which we've already talked about. And then their reaction ability is called Dragon Shield Tactics. If an enemy moves adjacent to a kobold, if an enemy adjacent to the kobold shifts, or an enemy moves to a square adjacent to the kobold, they can shift also. So if an enemy adjacent to the kobold shifts, or okay. So how this would probably play out is we'd probably just give them something similar to Sentinel, I think, because Sentinel would cover the Dragon Shield Tactics and it would cover the marking. So I'm thinking, I'm going to write that one down before I forget. Let's see. Because Sentinel does both of those things. It effectively marks the creature, providing that opportunity attack. And then it also gives them the Dragon Shield tactic of somebody tries to get away from you, you try to stop them from getting away from you. And then their whole point is that they are trying to be like tanks. Yeah. All right, let's see. Maybe we should add marking to all of our games when we update the patch document. That seems pretty good. All right, and then we have Kobold Slingers. Kobold Slingers are absolutely a delight. Here's what Kobold Slingers are bringing to the table. They are level 1 artillery units. They are fast. They are easy to hit, though. They have a very strong attack modifier. And they have slings. And normally the sling does some pretty beefy damage for a low-level creature, but they have something called Special Shot. Now, Special Shot can be used 3 times per long rest, and how it works is it does damage, and then it randomly does one of the following effects. So, Stink Pot, which we'll say causes disadvantage to attack rolls. Fire Pot, which causes ongoing fire damage. And Glue Pots, which causes, we'll say, grapple. Yeah. And then, let's see. We've got minor action Shifty, as all kobolds in 4th edition had. And these guys only have stealth. They don't have any of the other cool stuff. So overall, a nice assortment of kobolds here to look at and choose from. All right. So let's see. Let's go to the next page. Lair of Karen. All right. So the Lair of Karen's Axis. All right. This is a level 5 encounter. So essentially, this is a CR5 encounter for a level 3 party. So if CR was real and it actually was balanced and did stuff, this would be a very hard encounter. For the players. Not a deadly encounter, but a very hard encounter. So what is happening here? We've got 3 Kobold Tunnelers, which are minions. We got 3 Kobold Quickblades. We've got Taloclaxis with his boss form. And then we have Varza with her boss form. All right. This cavern was once the lair of the adamantine dragon Karenzaxis. It has become It has become in many ways a prison for her offspring, the adamantine wyrmling Taloclaxis. When the characters enter the cavern, read the following. A slow-moving stream flowing west to east divides this large cavern in half. At first glance, the water looks shallow enough to simply wade across. In the southwestern portion of the room, the skeleton of a large dragon lies curled nose to tail. Only shreds of flesh and scales still cling to its bones. yeah. Varza has been forcing Taloclaxis to fight and kill unarmed humanoids from local goblin and kobold tribes, and recently she's been kidnapping innocent travelers from beyond the King's Wall to further sharpen Taloclaxis' fighting skills. Taloclaxis felt no remorse about slaying the goblins, kobolds, and other evil humanoids he was initially forced to battle. However, Killing the humans and other civilized folk Varza captured from beyond the King's Wall has brought about feelings of remorse, leaving the Wyrmling confused and depressed. He is, for the moment, still Varza's creature, however, and follows her commands. When the characters see Taloclaxus read, in the southern end of the room, near the blood-stained corpses of several humans, crouches a dragon the size of a large wolf. It's the size of a large wolf, guys. It's so cool. And you get to adopt it. The best introductory adventure ever. Just saying. Anyways. Its scales are a dull iron gray, and its large head is armed with a formidable beak. It does not stir when you enter, and only the whip-crack screech of a kobold voice to the east manages to push it reluctantly to its feet. When the characters see Taloclaxus, they can make a DC 10 nature check to recognize him as an adamantine wyrmling. I feel like that is remarkably low DC for a knowledge check to identify one of the rarest dragons ever, but okay, sure. This check is sufficient to tell. This is why, though. This check is sufficient to tell them that adamantine dragons are not usually evil and do not normally associate with kobolds. So, rather than just shit all over the rarity of an adamantine dragon by saying any old person knows that it's like this, we should probably add a journal entry. So what we're going to do is that one of the encounters is we're going to add an encounter. So we're going to add a dead naturalist. Basically, this is a guy who was studying adamantine dragons, and he was in a little camp out in the woods outside of Karen's lair, and he's trying to learn more about her. And then he got killed by owlbears or some shit. And then we'll hint that the owlbears might be around, but we'll never actually send the owlbears against the party. Hopefully it's not too much of a red herring, and they you know, if they start looking for the owlbear, that's when you could say something like they hear noise up ahead, or, you know, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But I like the idea that they find clues that explain why the dragon is a goodly creature, but maybe, yeah. Ooh, a javelin sticking out of him. Nice. Okay. Oh man, this music is too sad. Hold on. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I just don't want to give him like a knowledge check DC 10. I don't know. It seems kind of lame. Plus, we could make a handout, and handouts are always fun with adventures. When the characters see the kobolds, read the following flavor text. The dragonling is not the only danger in this cavern. Over half a dozen kobolds lurk in the shadows, including a tall, gray-scaled specimen shouting orders to the other kobolds in the rasping draconic tongue. The kobolds here may be expecting trouble if the kobold tunneler from Area 2 was able to warn them of the character's presence, which is also the guy from Area 1. So he's done a really great job. He needs a fucking promotion. If this happens, add in an additional kobold tunneler to this encounter. Even if they receive no warning, the kobold tunnelers and quickblades in the southern end of the cavern are watching the entrance to this area, and the characters need a stealth check of 12 to enter without being noticed. If they are carrying a light source, the kobolds will notice them automatically in the darkness. Look at this. Look at this. Just tells you, if you have light in the darkness, motherfuckers don't gotta roll. They're just gonna see you. They're just gonna see you. All right. Once combat begins, Varza shouts commands to Taloclaxus and Draconic from the eastern side of the cavern, urging the Wyrmling to slay the intruders. Taloclaxus, however, is racked by guilt over the humans that he killed recently. Oh shit, I guess he already killed the woodsman. And so fights only half-heartedly until it becomes bloodied. The dragon has a -4 penalty on all of its damage rolls. I guess when it gets bloodied, it's just like, fuck it, I gotta fight for my life here. And -4 penalty will just, of course, give it disadvantage. Every turn on which Taloclaxis attacks a player character, allow that character to attempt a DC 13 insight check. If the check succeeds, the character realizes the Wyrmling is holding back on its attacks. Once a character has succeeded in one of these insight checks, the characters can attempt the secret Turning Taloclaxis skill challenge to win Taloclaxis over to their side against Varza. Let the player characters come up with this idea on their own. Don't tell them that this is a secret challenge. Certainly don't say, now you could try a skill challenge. All right, I'll remember that. It's good advice. Turning Taloclaxis skill challenge. The characters must convince Taloclaxis' true enemies are Varza and her kobold minions. Is that the case, or is it like the society that drove Varza to feel like she had to set out on her own and weaponize a baby? I mean, it's a big problem, you know? Like, can we really cast it in black and white like that? For this adventure, I guess we will. All right, this is a complexity 2 skill challenge requiring 6. I don't even have enough fingers. 6 successes before 3 failures. Any character that speaks Draconic gets a +2 bonus to all primary skill checks made as part of this skill challenge. Once the skill challenge begins, it is imperative that the characters keep up their arguments to Taloclaxis. On any round that the characters do not attempt a primary skill check, they earn 1 failure. Oh shit. Okay. That's pretty cool. Like, you start it, you got to finish it. I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Let's see. Oh, man, this robot wants to sell, like, human beings to me. That's pretty exciting. Let's see. Hold on. We got to report him. We got to do our part. All right, cool. Okay. Let's see. Once the character damages Taloclaxis on a given round, all subsequent skill checks made as part of this challenge will have a -2 penalty. So every round that he's hit, it's a -2 penalty. Okay. Primary skills, they're looking for diplomacy and intimidation. Oh, that's weird. Okay. So these are the ones that they're suggesting that the players use. And they're ones that they want to see. But honestly, you should let any skill challenge that's bullshitted well enough be any skill that's being bullshit well enough to be used, in my opinion. Let's see. Secondary skills. All right. Diplomacy. So here it says no maximum, meaning that because they really want you to use diplomacy, which in 5th edition would be persuasion, they're letting you use it as much as you want, without any repeats. Or sorry, with as many repeats as you want. So by appealing to the dragon's intellect and sense of reason, you try to convince him that the kobolds do not have his best interest at heart. Intimidation. Standard action, 1 success, no maximum. Your words carry a subtle threat. You try to convince the Wyrmling that fighting you can only result in more pain and death. And then secondary skills are nature and religion. So for nature, you have a keen understanding of dragonkind, and your knowledge can help your companions choose the right words to sway the adamantine Wyrmling. You grant a +2 bonus to the next ally's diplomacy or intimidate check as part of this challenge. And then religion, as a minor action. I kind of like this, and I forgot about this. So you can essentially, back in the day, use a bonus action to give somebody else assistance to their attempt to make a skill challenge thing, which is kind of cool. You grant a +2 bonus to one ally's next diplomacy or intimidate as part of this challenge. Religion, you invoke the name of Bahamut, the great platinum dragon, and father to all metallic dragons. And that lends weight to the words and actions of your companions, and that gives them a +2 bonus. All right. Success. The characters persuade Taloclaxis that they are not his enemies, and his true enemies are the kobolds who forced him to commit atrocities unworthy of an adamantine dragon. How fully he joins in the fight depends on how many failures the character scored during the skill challenge. If they had 0 failures and 6 successes, dude is mad. He hulks out. And all of his attacks deal full damage. Don't roll any dice, just full damage. If there was 1 failure, the dragon switches sides but is still confused and will have disadvantage. He fights as an ally but with a -4 penalty on his damage rolls. Okay. And then 2 failures, the dragon is even more confused than before. He takes wing and tries to fly out of the cavern without attacking anyone. Characters will find him curled up outside after the fight. Failure. If the characters fail to persuade him that they are not his enemies, his confusion turns to blind rage. He attacks the characters with furious aggression and causes full damage with his attacks. The characters must fight the Wyrmling and may be forced to kill him. Oh my goodness. Alright, so now this is a big boss fight, so they actually walk us through it with some tactics. In the first round of combat, the Kobold Tunnelers hurl their javelins at characters, while the Kobold Quickblades use nearby rubble to hide. Taloclaxus waits for the characters to cross the stream before attacking, while Varza waits for the characters to engage Taloclaxus and opens up with Sonic Orb, targeting likely spellcasters. See how it specifically says likely spellcasters? It's telling me exactly how to run this fucking boss, so that I don't look like a goddamn stooge when I run the boss poorly and my players all laugh at me because I'm so bad at Dungeons & Dragons. Alright. In Melee, the Kobold Quickblades team up on a single character using Quickblade each round to gain flanking positions and boost their damage. The Tunnelers use similar tactics, relying on shifty and narrow escape. Taloclaxus engages the heroes reluctantly and fights half-heartedly, pulling some of the power from its melee attacks, aka he has a penalty to his damage rolls. I think the penalty to the damage rolls might be better than the penalty, or than giving him disadvantage. Because I think that would show that he's doing less damage. I think full damage is without -4 penalty instead of... Oh! Yeah, that makes more sense. Yes, good point, Azuri. Oh my god, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay. I wish it had been a little bit more clear, because I'm thinking in like max dice critical... yeah, okay. In Melee, the Kobold Quickblades team up on a single character, blah, 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 blah. Taloclaxus pulls his attacks. He focuses his attacks against characters wearing the heaviest armor, hoping that the armor... Look at this shit. He focuses his attacks against characters wearing the heaviest armor, hoping that the armor will turn aside his claws of teeth. He's deliberately attacking people that he thinks are going to be able to live through his attacks. Oh, man. So good. He is still too young and inexperienced to realize that his adamantine claws easily slice through armor, the reason why his attacks all target reflex rather than armor class. Wow, that's quite a stat. Okay, we'll have to look into that. He's basically got Vorpal swords. Okay. Taloclaxus does use double attack each round because he knows how Varza expects him to fight. He does not use his breath weapon until he is bloodied. If the characters fail the turning Taloclaxus skill challenge, then the Adamantine Wyrmling fights with every ounce of his ability, coordinating with the Kobold allies and using his breath weapon as often as possible. While the characters are fighting Taloclaxus, Varza continues to attack them from afar with Sonic Orb. If any of the Kobold Quickblades are bloodied, she uses Incite Faith to bolster their hit points and allow them to move into more advantageous positions. Varza uses her breath weapon if one or more characters close into melee range and uses her action point. What is an action point on a bad guy? What is that? This is a low-level bad guy with an action point. What does that mean? Yeah, that's right. That's right. This is where legendary actions came from. All right. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's see. And uses her action point to finish off. This is a third-level adventure. And they are telling us right now to finish someone off with her Sonic Orb. She resorts to melee only when there is no other option, and happily sacrifices one of her kobold tunnelers to keep the characters busy while her breath weapon recharges. Oh my goodness. All right. Features of the area. So illumination, it's dark, 20-foot high ceiling. Corpses. There are 6 fresh corpses in the southern end of this chamber. They have all been killed by Taloclaxis and bear wounds one would expect from the teeth, claws, and breath weapon of adamant. I don't know what to expect from an adamantine dragon. Careful examination of the corpses reveals that 3 match the descriptions of the missing woodcutters in the Woeful Woodwives story hook. Squares with corpses are difficult terrain. I do love that. I miss that. I don't run that anymore because I try to keep my my Foundry VTT maps as clean as possible, so I've gotten into the habit of just like deleting bodies. But like I do miss corpses counting as difficult terrain because it was such a tactical thing when we used it, where you would just like deliberately kill people sometimes to create difficult terrain. I don't know. Anyways, let's see. Dragon skeleton. The remains of Karen lie tumbled in a bony heap against the wall in the southwest corner of the cavern. Her body has been reduced to little more than a skeleton by the adventurers that slew her and the kobolds that now reside in her lair. In their haste to butcher their prize, Karen's killers left a large number of scales on the adamantine dragon's belly. Though it is a grisly task, the characters can collect enough scales for Ecos Ironbelly to work it into a shield or a suit of armor. And then there is rubble. Squares with rubble are difficult terrain. These piles are large enough to offer cover to adjacent creatures of small size and smaller. And then the stream is slow moving, but it is 3 feet deep, which does make it difficult terrain. All right, let's check out the monsters. I think there is a mod that turns them into a tile, actually. That's a great question, Orpheus. I think there is actually a Foundry mod that will, when you say something's dead, it will replace them with like a corpse marker tile. I should probably add that to my to-do list. All right. So Varza, she is a level 5 elite artillery leader. So you know that she a bad bitch. She has 100 hit points. This is a level 3 boss that has 100 hit points. How much hit points does she? 100 hit points. Wow. So she has a saving throw bonus of +2. So you know she's a bad bitch. That means that anytime she would be required to make a saving throw, she does so at +2. She has an action point, which in modern day times would be better than a legendary action. It would be basically a paragon action from Glyphs. An action point allows them to do anything they want. They can do anything they want. And here's what she can do. She has a spear. She doesn't like to use it, but the spear still does 1d8 plus 8 damage. What the fuck? She has sonic orbs at will. She just fires sonic orbs. These are thunder damage, and they will cause the deafened status. The deafened status is hot trash, sweet garbage in 5e, so we will probably change that out for maybe knocking them prone. That might be kind of cool. Let's see. Then we've got Dragon's Breath. Her Dragon's Breath only recharges on a 6. This is the first appearance, I believe, of the recharging breath weapon. I don't think 3rd edition had a recharge die on the breath weapons. It's been a long time since I played 3rd edition. This guy does a close blast, so it's a very small baby size. It's a very baby size breath weapon. I believe that is the same as if he cast Thunder Wave. It's a 9x9, if I'm remembering correctly. It is Constitution based, so it is basically a Thunder Wave, and it does do thunder damage. What's neat is that this causes the dazed status, something that does not exist in 5th edition officially. And if you make a save, you take half damage. All right, so then as a bonus action, she can Incite Faith. 1 kobold ally within 10 squares of Varza gains 5 temporary hit points and can shift 1 square. Sadly, this is a encounter, so it's only once per short rest ability. And then she also has as a bonus action Shifty, as all kobold do. So that's a pretty cool boss. Not overly complicated, but still, you know, getting it done. Over here, we have 3 kobold tunnelers, which we've already looked at, 3 kobold quick blades, which we already are familiar with, and then finally, Taloclaxus himself, the adamantine dragon wyrmling. He is a level 5 elite soldier. He has got such good stats here. He has something called Resist 5 Thunder. So in 4th edition, when you resisted something, you had a value that you resisted. So every instance of damage from that particular damage type, you would resist that much. So every time you took thunder damage, you would ignore the first 5 points of thunder damage that you took. You wouldn't have it. You would just ignore the first 5 points that you would take, or 10 or 15, whatever your value happened to be, which is pretty cool. To convert him over to 5th edition, we'll probably just go ahead and give him resistance to thunder. Yeah, he has thunder damage reduction, essentially, yeah. But rather than overcomplicate this, we just want to convert it over to 5th edition, so he'll just get thunder resistance. He is slow boy, and his flight speed is very slow, too. In 4th edition, things flew very, very slowly. Like, really slowly. The reason everything flew really slowly is because we were just playing Final Fantasy Tactics, the RPG, and we had these beautiful, small, set-piece battle maps, and we really didn't want everybody to fly away from those battle maps, so we had everything flew very, very slowly. So that's that. He has an absolutely insane armor class. I don't even know if that would be fair to have a AC 21 on a level 3 encounter. But you know, when we convert it, we'll probably lower a lot of these numbers down. Let's see. When he goes to bite, he bite really good, and he ignores your armor. That is a feature of adamantine dragons. I don't know if we would have that in this. Yeah, they fly like peahens, Dom. Exactly. I think what we'll do when we convert him over is he will not attack your reflex, or you know, he will not ignore your armor. But what we will do to represent that he's an adamantine dragon is that his attacks count as adamantine for damage resistance purposes, not that that matters, and then he is immune to critical hits as an adamantine dragon. That would be the 5th edition adamantine flavor. Not very exciting. Much more exciting that he ignores armor entirely, but you know, we're trying to convert this over to 5th edition. All right, he gets he has a bite, he has a claw. His bite does a lot of damage, which is why he can only do the bite. His double attack would be the 5th edition equivalent of a multi-attack, and it is a tailored multi-attack that allows him to make 2 claw attacks. He doesn't get the benefit of the bite, so he doesn't do a claw bite like a normal dragon. He would do 2 claws or 1 big old savage bite. If we wanted him to be on par with other dragon wyrmlings, I think other dragon wyrmlings get claws and bites. We may have to adjust. He does get a breath weapon, and in 5th edition, a lot of dragons had their breath weapon, and then they didn't get their breath weapon back until they were bloodied. They did not have a recharge die. Some dragons had a recharge die. Other dragons, they would breathe their breath weapon, and then as soon as they got bloodied, they would get their breath weapon back. This is a dragon like that. Because the adventure is having him hold back, he doesn't use his breath weapon the first time, so you're only going to have to worry about this one time. And his is a blast 4, so it's going to hit 16 spaces. Maybe he has advantage on attacks against targets wearing metal armor. I could kind of see that working, but for the most part, I feel like characters in metal armor are already getting punished enough, and characters with like magic, like shield spell and stuff like that, already have like such a huge advantage anyways. I think it'll just be, we'll just make him hit really hard, and that should be enough, honestly. All right, and then his breath weapon does thunder damage. and that's it. That's the guy. They already talked about the what happens after the adventure at the beginning, and so we have read this entire adventure together. I have a game at 8, so we can't actually start converting this adventure until next time. But now that we have reread the adventure and are infinitely familiar with it, next time we go to do this adventure, we will be able to go through and start actively converting everything over into stat blocks and all that good stuff. So, all right. The next stream in this series is not officially scheduled. It's just whenever I have some time and I feel like streaming. So, yeah. My plan is to take all of the streams that we do converting this adventure over, and I'm going to edit them down into a single video, kind of cut the fat a little bit, and make it a more streamlined experience. And then we'll put the converted adventure out for everybody on Patreon to use. And maybe we'll try to figure out how to export it out of Foundry when we put it into Foundry. Could be fun. All right, I'll be back in like 15 minutes or so. I'm going to be streaming Skulljammer, which is Skull and Shackles and Spelljammer mashed together. So maybe I'll see you then. Otherwise, I'll be streaming tomorrow night some more Wildermyth. I'll be streaming prep on Thursday for Wild Beyond the Witchlight Isekai. I'll be hosting Wild Beyond the Witchlight Isekai actual play Thursday night. And then Friday night, we'll be playing some more Solasta. Saturday, we'll be playing Red-Handed Doom. Sunday, we'll be playing Mythic Odyssey. Monday, we're going to have the final session of Odyssey Prime. It's just a lot. It's a lot of D&D going on. A lot of good stuff. Anyways. All right. I will see you guys next time.